Welcome to Nugget 129 with Steve Groman, and today we will be continuing with our nuggets on the first scoffer. In Nugget 128, we talked about scoffers in the last days and highlighted a few of those, and then we brought in the idea of the first scoffer, and we were in Genesis 3, 1 through 5, and we were dealing specifically with how the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, and he caused Eve to doubt. But today we're going to move on to the next verses.
In Genesis 3, going to verse number 2 and 3, it says, "And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die."
She had specific instructions, and she knew them.
Well, yes, but she actually added to God's word here because God didn't say, don't touch it.
Let's save that for the next nugget.
We'll get into that on the next nugget.
All right.
The serpent goes up to Eve and says, Hath God said, causing that first doubt, that first scoffer. Eve knew what God had told Adam and her.
Yeah, and then she's quoting back what God said.
But misquoting. We'll get to that next nugget. And it goes on, And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
And I know you talk about this a lot in the creation seminar as the beginning of the evolutionary concept that we can be our own God and that there isn't a one true God, but we can be our own God.
Right.
Make our own rules.
And it's not just evolution, but it's also humanism, because if you put the whole package together, the first thing, hath God said, causing doubt. The second thing recorded out of the serpent's mouth is, Ye shall not surely die. Once doubt is in place, denial can be the next thing, rejection. What God said is not true. And then the third thing the devil says is, when you eat, you'll be like God. You can make your own choices. And so therefore, that's what people do today. First thing is they doubt the Bible, something of it, and then they come to the realization in their minds that it's just not true, and then they just do their own thing and everything's going to work out okay. The same ploy that's used against us today is the same ploy that the devil used against Eve at the very start.
Yes, in Genesis 3:4, and the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. And the serpent, Satan, is directly contradicting God's word, but Eve knew God's word, but she still was listening to him. She was listening to the wrong voice.
Right, and that is a very, very important point. She did know, but yet she did fall for the ploy.
And then in Genesis 3:5, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And we have just been talking about that. You can sense that Satan is like insinuating that God's holding back some information from her, and he's like, hey, I can tell you something that he's not wanting you to know.
Right.
And that caused curiosity and probably all kinds of questions. And
that's the same thing that happens to people today.
Right. It may not even be a person.
Good over there.
A person may not do it, or someone outside. You may just come up with this on your own.
Right. Or some influence or something that you want to do that you know you shouldn't do that, I don't know, but I don't know, it looks pretty good. And people just fall for the same ploy all the time.
Right. We must be careful. We need to take this as an example not to do that. But I know that you have a really interesting bit of information on the eating of the fruit.
Yeah, let's cover that next nugget.
And it's not whether it was an apple or not. That's not what we'll be talking about.
No.
All right. Well, thank you. We hope that you have enjoyed this nugget and all the other nuggets that we have put up over the year. Speaking of this year, this has been a very interesting and tough year for ministry, as the majority of our meetings have canceled due to COVID. And now with the election issues and continuing issues with COVID, we still are not scheduling, and services that we have scheduled have been canceling. We certainly appreciate those of you who can help support us financially, either on a monthly basis or maybe just a one-time would be awesome. The best way to do that is if you use PayPal or Zelle, or you can contact us directly to find out how to become a monthly sponsor by calling 603-616-8907. We thank you and help spread the word and the truth of God's creation.